This is the new Honor 70, a mid-range phone that's the most affordable option in the Honor 70 lineup. Unlike other phones we've seen from Huawei and Honor, this one is being released directly into Western markets with Google services on board. I'm Will for GSM Arena, and let's see what the Honor 70 is all about in our full review. The Honor 70 is the successor to last year's Honor 50, and it brings a few upgrades. There's a refreshed chipset, a larger battery, and new cameras this time around. Design-wise, there's almost no change from the previous model. The phone is lightweight, with the back made from frosted glass. The most notable difference is the camera bump, which is now completely separated in two. The plastic frame is glossy and makes the phone feel razor thin, and both the back and the screen curve into it. There's no official ingress protection on the Honor 70, just like last year. The phone's curved OLED display is quite similar to the Honor 50's, except that it's very slightly bigger at 6.67 inches. There's a 1080p resolution and a 120Hz refresh rate. Even though the predecessor was bright enough, the new model improves on that a bit. We measured a maximum brightness of around 510 nits with a manual slider, and this boosts to 790 nits in auto mode when out in the sun. Besides that, this display is sharp and contrasty, and the color accuracy can be excellent depending on the color mode you choose in settings. There's support for 10-bit color, as well as HDR10+ support. We enjoyed using the under-display fingerprint reader, which is very fast and reliable. Where the Honor 70 falls behind though is the adaptive refresh rate. At 120Hz, it does smooth out your swiping and scrolling, but the screen won't dial down any lower when you stop interacting with it. Another feature that is behind the competition is the audio setup. You only get a single speaker here. The bottom-firing speaker is not that loud, earning an average score in our loudness test, and the quality is dull-sounding and far from impressive. You get storage options for 128, 256, or 512 gigs on the Honor 70, but that's not expandable. The interface of the Honor 70 is Magic UI 6.1, based on Android 12. It's smooth and snappy and pretty bloat-free. Aesthetically, it's no different from recent versions, and people familiar with Honor or Huawei devices would feel right at home here. Probably the first thing people wonder when encountering a Huawei or Honor phone is whether or not it has Google services. And no worries, you get full support here. And one specific feature which is rather handy is the shortcut menu, which you can access by swiping from the edge of the screen. Apps open through here will launch in a pop-up window. The Honor 70's chipset is a small upgrade over last year's model. Rather than a Snapdragon 778G, now you get a Snapdragon 778G Plus. The difference is a slight increase in the clock speed of the main CPU core. The actual performance is, as you'd expect, largely similar. It's not flagship-grade power, but pretty solid for an upper mid-range device. One issue we did find though was with the thermal management. Under heavy stress, the performance is less stable than what we observed on the Honor 50. During our stress test, the CPU performance would periodically dip to just 20% of its maximum level. Compared to last year, one major upgrade you'll find here, at least on paper, is a larger 4800 mAh battery. For whatever reason though, the overall battery life hasn't seen an improvement this year. The Honor 70 was able to score the same 100-hour endurance rating in our tests, which is just decent for this size battery. The Honor 70 packs the same 66-watt charging as before, and to our surprise, even with a larger battery, the charging speed has improved. We were able to charge from 0 to 71% in half an hour. The biggest upgrade over the Honor 50 is in the camera department. The Honor 70 offers a new 54-megapixel main cam and a new 50-megapixel ultra-wide with autofocus. The third camera is a depth sensor. Photos from the main cam come out in 12.5 megapixels, and they are good. You get sharp images which have a good amount of fine detail and saturated colors. Dynamic range is good, though the phone sometimes would go for a darker, more contrasty look. Portrait shots are okay, but nothing to write home about. The detail level could be better, and the edge detection isn't the most precise. The ultra-wide camera is a big improvement over the previous generation, and it's also better than most phones in this price bracket. It delivers images with a good amount of detail and punchy colors. Dynamic range isn't that impressive though, and while the center of the frame has good sharpness, the edges are rather soft. Instead of having a dedicated macro camera, the Honor 70 can use its ultra-wide to take close-up shots. These are good. They're lively, with a nice amount of detail and sharpness. In low light, the main cam's performance is commendable. The photos are sharp and detailed, with great contrast, wide dynamic range, and saturated colors. Highlights and shadows are balanced too. The overall rendition is not the most realistic though. Turning on the night mode doesn't drastically change things. You get a bit more contrast, slightly more saturated colors, and a bit more sharpening. Shadows are a little brighter and light sources are more balanced. The difference is small enough that you have to weigh the benefits against the extra 3 or 4 second processing time. The ultra-wide produces good-looking shots in the dark, with a wide enough dynamic range, good contrast, and plenty of color. Sharpness is also decent for this sort of camera. With night mode on, you end up with sharp images which have a good amount of fine detail and saturated colors. Selfies come from the 32 megapixel front-facing cam, and the quality is excellent. We were impressed by the amount of sharpness and detail, especially for this class. The Honor 70 can record videos in up to 4K resolution with both of its rear cameras. Video from the main cam has good sharpness and detail, wide dynamic range, low noise, and punchy colors. Contrast is on point too. There's a clever new feature called Solo Cut Mode. It uses AI to track one person out of a group to put them in the spotlight. The algorithm will recognize and focus on the person again, even after leaving. You can change the spotlight on the go during recording too. 4K video from the ultra-wide is not as good as that from the main cam. It's less sharp and there's an overall darker look. It's still decent for this sort of camera though, especially compared to phones whose lower res ultra-wides are limited to 1080p. So that's the Honor 70. It's notable in that it's a way to get Honor and Huawei technology in a new smartphone together with Google services. And besides that, you get a lightweight design, a great curved OLED display, decent battery life, and above average cameras for the price. The main downside though is the price. For the same money you can find flagship killers with stereo speakers and a more powerful chipset with better thermals. So while the Honor 70 is a pretty good mid-ranger, until its price goes down, there's more bang for your buck elsewhere. Thanks for watching guys, and see you on the next one.